Oh, it's unofficial depth chart season. They don't mean anything, but they still have to make them. And for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we have 2 QB1s. That kind of turns the idea of QB1 on its head, but it is Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. And this isn't some – they haven't discovered plutonium here. This happens. Like anybody in the media – I'm not going to name names here, and I'm not trying to be a jerk, but this gets back to our conversation from earlier. Anybody in the media that would act like they've never seen a depth chart before with or, they really aren't looking at many depth charts because this isn't uncommon to have or on a depth chart. It's the only quarterback competition this year with or, but it happens all the time. So it's still Baker Mayfield versus Kyle Trask to be the top quarterback. And, you know, we've talked about this from time to time. There was a point where Dave Canales, the new offensive coordinator, was saying there are political realities to this. We have Trask that we used a fairly high draft pick to get, and then we've got Mayfield that we signed in free agency, and both guys need to have a chance. But, you know, Chris, we're a couple of weeks in, and I don't get the impression either guy's separating himself. And, you know, the other side of this, the thing I don't like about quarterback competitions, the longer they last, the less time that the winner has to get himself ready for the games that count.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you'd like something to start getting that way in the next 2 to 3 weeks for sure. I mean, 3 weeks at the most. You know, hopefully 2 weeks. Hopefully you can go into that last preseason game and kind of go, we know who our starter. And then to your point, the or thing, I mean, that's very common. It was on the 49ers depth chart yesterday. It was Trey Lance or Sam Darnold as the number 2 quarterback, right? So that goes on everywhere. This is not a shock. But, you know, the sense that you get reading through the media, and the thing I think I told you just from talking to a bunch of people that are, you know, around Tampa Bay, a part of the organization, that Kyle Trask has really come on strong here as of late in training camp. I got the feel that at the start it was a Baker Mayfield, and, you know, at the end of OTAs, he left the best lasting impression. But here comes Trask now, you know, feeling comfortable and letting it go. And it does feel like it's totally up in the air. And I think then the political realities do get into it, right? You're going to have people in that organization, in that front office, are going to go, wait, let's go with Kyle Trask. We don't know what he is, what he can be. He's got potential. It's untapped. Maybe we just let him ride this. And you're going to have ones, too, that are also the ones that are saying that. They're going to go, we know what Baker Mayfield is. We can bring him off the bench and do that. Do it that way, right? You know, and then there could be a part of there's, of course, guys going to be on the other side of that spectrum to go, no, Baker Mayfield was the number 1 pick, and we brought him in here. Let him do it. And then if he fails, we can bring in Kyle Trask, right? I mean, so that's I'm sure what they're dealing with a little bit in that organization. But at the end of the day, like you say, like I say, the field play, what we see this weekend, next weekend, that's going to determine who the starter is here. But it is odd that it really does feel like it's a dead heat, a flip of the coin right now, and usually it's not that way this far into training camp.
It would have been inconceivable a couple years ago, the idea of not starting Baker Mayfield and not having him be a complete and total pain in the ass to everyone, to anyone, to just being disagreeable and making it harder. He is so mature now, and I don't know if mature is the right way. I think the way that he had some sort of an epiphany.
He's humble.
You know, he's kind of being a jerk. And he's so far in the other direction now, it's almost like he welcomes the chance to prove his maturity. And I don't think he would have a problem with not being the starter. Look at the contract he took. It's like $4.5 million. It's embarrassingly low for a guy of his pedigree, frankly. So the reason that it's a question is Kyle Trask, as you said, is playing better. Here's Trask from yesterday talking about the importance of his habit of protecting the football.
Are you taking enough chances? Are you using camp enough to see what you can and can't do with some of the riskier throws?
I've definitely been seeing what I can and can't do for the past 2 years. So I think I have a much better idea now. So, I know what situations, you have to take more risks in. And I think if we can just play clean as an offense, that's going to give us the best chance to win in the end. And I'm just trying to do the best that I can do, which includes protecting the football.
So much for no risk it, no biscuit, right? That's the philosophical shift in this Todd Bowles, Dave Canales team.
Yeah.
Bruce Arians, long gone. I don't even think he's involved at all this year. Last year, he was assistant to the traveling secretary or something like that. This year, I think he's just gone. So, and it's a very different philosophical mindset. And what's Baker Mayfield? What's he historically been? He's been the guy who takes the chances. Kyle Trask is learning, I just operate the offense. I keep it simple. Don't get reckless with the football, and that may be the way to win the job. And so far, it seems to be working, just given the fact that Baker Mayfield hasn't already won it. The fact that it's still neck and neck tells me Trask has a pretty damn good chance to win the job, Chris.
I would agree. I would. And we saw this shift from the Bucs last year, right? We know this. We know that Todd Bowles and the Bucs, they wanted to run the ball and be more conservative last year and maybe play through the defense a little bit. They got forced into a corner where they couldn't run the ball, and they had to throw the ball with Brady and do more of that than I think they would have liked. But I think in Todd Bowles' heart of hearts, yeah, he wants a balanced offense, and he doesn't want the offense taking chances or doing anything like that. I think he probably feels like, hey, we got a defense. The defense is the strength of their team right now. I think when you really look at it, the offensive line, we got questions there. Wide receivers, Mike Evans, how good still is he? I think he's still real good, but lost his step last year. It wasn't necessarily as explosive and as dangerous as we've seen in years past. So that there's some things there that I'm sure they want smart decisions, take care of the football, defensive coach. That's usually what they preach there. Baker Mayfield, he's had moments of being reckless with the football. I don't know if he's doing that in training camp. I haven't heard that. But yeah. That's where it's going to be interesting too. Do they feel like they trust both of these quarterbacks? That's going to be a part of this. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to get a good feel, at least from this first live action, to see where it goes from there. Like we said, and I'm with you. I thought this was one where we were going to be like at this point and go, yeah, it's still a competition, but reading the tea leaves here, you got to feel that Baker Mayfield's leading it. And I don't feel that way at all right now. It's totally right down the middle.
In order to maintain my status as a top 5 conspiracy theorist, and frankly, if you're top 5, it means you are number 5 and you're barely hanging on.
Right.
Is it possible the Buccaneers signed Baker Mayfield knowing that Trask is the guy, they're getting a cheap backup, they make Baker Mayfield think he's going to compete for the starting job, but at the end of the day, the goal is to just push Trask to get more out of him and get him ready to go?
I don't doubt that, right? And then also have a guy where you go, yeah, if he's not ready to go, we got a guy that can come in and help us out, and he's played some football and done that. I wouldn't be shocked by that thought. Again, he is their guy. They drafted him. There's obviously some belief in him within the organization that, he could do this. The fact that here he is, the first year Tom Brady's out of there, they thrusted him into this position, I think says a lot in general, but yeah, the state of the team, how they look in the preseason, I think a lot of that stuff could be, part of who they pick at quarterback, right, Mike? I mean, I've had coaches who've coached in the NFL, right, where they've talked to me about certain quarterback competitions they've had, and they've even told me about times where they picked the guy who probably wasn't as good, but only because they felt like the team wasn't quite ready yet. And they didn't want to put the guy in that was maybe younger but more talented in until they felt like, hey, the offensive line's blocking the right way. The receivers have, got things down in the offense. And that's where, who knows what could be at play there too. And I don't know, Mike, what would you err on? Would you err on throwing Kyle Trask in and going, we'll just figure it out? Or would you err on, hey, let's throw Baker Mayfield out there because we're not sure about our offensive line and Tristan Wirfs at left tackle and our right tackle situation and our guard situation and all that. And let's wait till we get a little bit more, on the same page, and then we throw Kyle Trask out there. There's those thoughts too that go into this whole type of competition.
Oh, it reminds me of 2008 when the Ravens were determined not to start Joe Flacco at all that year, and then Troy Smith comes down with a case of tonsillitis, and it gives Flacco a chance to prove to the Ravens that he was capable of protecting himself. And once they knew that their first-round pick was not going to get destroyed in his rookie year, frankly, that's when they decided to go with him from week 1. But I think in this division,
yeah,
every team, you could look at them and make an argument for and against them winning the division.
Yes.
Wide open.
Yes.
Panthers, Saints, Bucs, and Falcons. You can make, and the Bucs have all these guys still there from the Super Bowl team. And even though Tristan Wirfs has struggled with the flips from right side to left side, he's still pretty damn good.
He is.
And I think that you just got to go with the best guy. You got to go with the one that the locker room knows is the best guy, because you got too many veterans on that team that are not going to be willing to tolerate Kyle Trask if he's not the best guy, because we want to win. And if Mayfield is not the best guy, we want Trask because we want to win. So, that's how these decisions often get made. The locker room knows who it is, and the coach just properly has the pulse of the players and who the players want to play with and who the players believe will give them the best chance to win.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. And that will be a part of it. The belief in the locker room, the pizzazz a quarterback gives an offense or whatever. That's real. That's tangible. That's been a real thing throughout my career. And, yeah, the guy who can have effect on that offensive unit to when he gets in the huddle, the eyes open up and he can bring an energy out in their football team. Those are all things that a quarterback needs to bring out, and it's important to the lifeline of the football team in general. Baker Mayfield has some of that pizzazz. Yes. Does Kyle Trask? I mean, he's obviously got something that this organization believes in, and that they think he can lead people and lead grown men, to the promised land there. So we'll see if he can show us all that here in preseason week 1 and 2.
And at the end of the day, most offenses go only as far as the offensive line will take them. The reality is, when the offensive line is playing well, we don't notice them because we notice the guys who are doing great things with the football. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.